Hey friend, welcome and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Listen, if this is your first time here, then welcome. I give lighthearted reviews of some of my favorite TV shows and movies. So if this is something that interests you, consider sticking around. Have a lot more content coming to my channel, and I'm so glad you're here. I want to say thank you to those who have subscribed to my channel. It really, really means the world to me. Thank you so much. And listen, we're going to go ahead and get into it. This is the Gilded Age, Season 3, Episode 6. This one is called If You Want to Make an Omelet. Listen, this episode had me in my feels, y'all. I mean, so much happened, tears, and just, ugh. Let's go ahead and just get into it. All right, y'all. So let's talk about what's going on in England out there at Sigmund Castle. Now, we see that Bertha has arrived to try to unscrew what she screwed up when she let Gladys marry this Duke, right? Because we know from last episode, George was at the end of his rope with her, and she's like, I can fix it. So she got on the first thing smoking out here to go try to fix it. Now, when she gets there, immediately she's asking Lady Sarah, what room is she in? What king, because it's all about status with her. So Sarah says, yeah, you're in the Sad King's room, the one who screwed up and lost all the money or whatever he did and ended up dying broke or whatever. So, yeah, that's fitting for you. Go ahead, get your ladies maid, and dinner's at 8 o'clock. Now, we also learned that now that Idlehide is gone, probably sailing back to NYC, her new maid, Aunt Sarah, are of course running the show all the way down to even dressing Gladys. Bertha's like, wow, they even dress you? They tell you what to put on? And she's like, yeah. So Bertha's like, listen, here's what you do. You want to get rid of Sarah. You got to schmooze the Duke. You got to make him fall in love with you. You have got to put on your big girl panties and you've got to go and be the Duchess. Okay. That's the only way you're going to do it. Get more involved, learn about the estate, learn the people. And once you and Hector have created a united front, then you can go ahead and work on Lady Sarah. But I can't do it for you. You have to do it. You got to find your voice and speak up. You are the Duchess. This is your house, right? You don't let anybody else run it in your home. So that's exactly what Gladys does. She has a talk with Hector, and she's like, "Listen, I'd like to know, the ins and outs of how to run a farm in England. I don't know anything about it. Can you please set up a tour?" And so he's like, yeah, I think that would be a good idea. And as soon as he said that, here comes Lady Sarah. What is this? A what? And he's like, well, Gladys would like to, get a tour around, meet the people, meet the farmhands and their wives and see what's going on. And immediately she looks at Bertha. Is this your doing? Did you put her up to this? And Bertha just kind of looked. She didn't say a word. So she's saying a lot without saying anything. I'm like, okay. So Gladys is finding a voice now that her mother is there. The only thing that I'm kind of worried about is, are you going to continue to have it? Because after what happened, I don't know how long Bertha was there, but honey, it was a lot that went on. And right now, Lady Sarah is not a happy camper. So they have a dinner, and at dinner, somebody's asking Gladys her thoughts, which is something that probably no one has ever done on I think it was like the right to vote or whatever the case may be. And she's like, yeah, I think that everybody should have, the right to vote. And Bertha chimes in and says, yeah, especially women. And I think she asked Lady Sarah what she thought about it. And Lady Sarah was like, nah, I'm not really on that, women's voting train. I don't subscribe to that. And so Bertha kind of puts her on the spot and embarrasses her. Is like, what, do you think the women are stupid? You think they're incompetent? They're not, they don't know how to read and can't go in and cast their vote? Like, what's up with you? And so everyone's just kind of like eyes on Lady Sarah. And she comes up with an excuse, something, I don't know, something about the queen or something. But she was completely humiliated and embarrassed at the dinner. And after the dinner, Gladys went to bed, and so they're sitting there talking. Bertha's like, "Look, I'm kind of upset that you let Idlehide go back. Like that was her, that was her homegirl. That was like the only person that she had that was as close to her." She's like, "Well, I always thought that that was the plan, right? Like we need to have English ladies maid here so that she could learn the customs and trades of becoming a duchess." Now, the next night when they're at dinner, um, they're Gladys is sitting there and she's talking to one of the guests at the table, and all of a sudden she's like, "Yeah, I would like to do something for the Queen's Memorial," because he's asking her, "How did your tour go? Did you, are you ready to make any changes?" And she's like, "Yeah, not right now. It's too soon." She goes, "But I would like to plant, a tree in in remembrance or in honor of the Queen for her 50th anniversary. And of course, like clockwork, up here's Lady Sarah. No need to do that. It's already done. Sorry, cross that right on off your list because that's not going to happen. And so I guess the tradition is when it's time for the ladies to get up from the table, the lady of the house is supposed to get up. And when she gets up, that's the other ladies' cues to also get up so that they can leave and I guess leave the men to their talk. So, of course, Lady Sarah gets up. And so when she did, Bertha's looking at Gladys like, girl, say something, So she's like, Sarah, are you ill? And she's like, girl, what? Am I ill? What's going on with you? I mean, do you need an Advil? Do you need a goody powder? Maybe a glass of water? Like what? I mean, because you stood up and I'm not done eating. So how about you sit back down until I'm ready to get up and then we'll do it like that, okay? Honey, the way Lady Sarah looked. And so Hector's at the table, like, why did you get up? She's like, I always get up. I mean, I don't understand what's going on. So of course, all of this is happening now because Bertha's there. And I feel like, yep, you got your voice, but you have to keep that up, Gladys, because I feel like, it's like when someone comes and someone says, oh, you're just showing off because your mama's here, and then when she leaves, it's like business as usual. So hopefully Gladys can keep this up. Now, it's time for Bertha to head back to the States. And so she's telling Gladys that she's proud of her, proud of the woman that she's becoming and not to forget who she is. And I'm like, Bertha, how dare you? This is all your fault. I feel so bad for Gladys. I mean, it's your fault that she's over there. She's in a foreign land. She doesn't know anybody. The lady's maid is gone. She's with this man and his sister who don't like her. And she has no one. And you're like, oh, I'm proud of you. Like, you did this to her and you come over for 2 days and now you're headed back and you think that it's fixed. It is not fixed, not by a long shot. All you did was go over there and give her some advice, which you could have wrote her a letter to tell her all of that, because I guarantee you this is not going to be the first time that she has this run in with Lady Sarah, and I'm sure it's going to get worse. So I feel really bad for Gladys, but hopefully she does find her voice and she can continue to I guess take the advice that Bertha gave her, and maybe. But Hector, he's just so timid, and so it's like I don't get anything from him, like any leadership skills or any, hey, this is what we're doing. It's like Lady Sarah's running it, so he's got to do his part as well. So we'll see how this happens, but right now it is still a disaster. I don't know. All right, now let's go out to Brooklyn and talk about Miss Peggy. So she is back from Philly. Remember last episode, she went there to interview the lady with 16 names. No, her name is Miss Harper. I'm just going to go with the last name, Miss Harper. And she asked Miss Harper to come to Brooklyn to speak at a tea that Peggy's going to host at her house in Brooklyn. Now, Dr. Williams going to come over to see how things were in Philly. And Peggy's just, telling him about the tea. And Dr. Williams is like, well, can I come? Can, my mama come? And Peggy's kind of, taken aback because she already knows how Lady Elizabeth feels about, women's rights. She's not a big fan of that. She feels like that we should concentrate on the Black men maintaining their right to vote as opposed to having these women try to jump in here. Like, she just feels like it's just too soon, and she does express that when she does get to the tea. We'll talk about that tea in just a second, but anyway, this is the opportunity for Peggy to go ahead and explain in what happened between her and Mr. Fortune in the past. So she explains a little bit of it, and the doctor's like, listen, it's okay, we all have past. And he was like, I don't even care about that anymore, but I really would hate to have to put these paws on him again, so just make sure we get Mr. Fortune straight and out of here. So I don't think we're going to be seeing him anymore. We definitely don't need to. But anyway, Peggy was also about to tell him about her son, but he just stopped her and he was like, listen, everybody has a past and let's just focus on the present. We don't have to worry about that. And so far they seem to be in a good space, but let's go ahead and talk about this tea because, like I said, one thing that he failed to do was to mention to his mother what this tea was all about. So she gets there and she's explaining again how she feels about, the idea of women trying to get involved with the vote right now. She feels like that we should be focused on the Black men maintaining the vote, especially down south, because we know that's in danger with, the Jim Crow laws and things of that nature that's coming up. And so, Peggy's just countering it. Yeah, I understand all of that, but the time is now. We can't be complacent. We can't sit back and just wait and wait. Like, we are the new generation and we want it, and we want it right now. And so, Lady Elizabeth's just taking it all in. She's just like, wow, I mean, I got my meatloaf recipe, my pineapple upside down. I mean, I thought we were swapping recipes. What is this? This is a little bit too heavy for tea, honey, this conversation. And so Peggy is like, I'm sorry. Mrs. Kirkland, I didn't realize that you didn't know what this tea was about. And she was like, yeah, William failed to mention it to me. So I'm like, come on now, Dr. William, we're riding for you. Let's not start with the shenanigans. So Peggy does ask him, hey, why didn't you tell your mama about what this was? And he was like, well, I just figured if I tell her, she wouldn't show up. Yeah. Give her that right not to show up. Like, you don't want her to be all awkward. It's already, she barely likes Peggy, I think, anyway. So let's not put everybody in awkward situations, Dr. Kirkland. Anyway, honey, Lady Elizabeth was ready for her coat and her hat. She's ready to get up out of here. She's like, listen, I'm ready to go. I've had enough talking about, women's rights to vote. I thought I was going to, get a good chicken pot pie recipe out of this tea, and I got nothing. So, anyway, while they're riding back in the carriage, she's asking him, hey, Peggy, she's smart and she's ambitious and she's, doing a lot. And I'm just wondering, if you marry her, is she going to be able to give me these grandbabies that I want? And is she going to be able to support you in your efforts, as a doctor? Is she going to be able to run the house, bring home the bacon fried up in a pan and never let you forget she's a man? Yeah, I'm telling my age on that one. If you guys know that, that's old school. That's an old school commercial that used to come on when I was a little girl. But anyway, and so, Dr. Williams just kind of taking that all in. And then on the flip side of that, Peggy's mama is also asking questions. She's like, listen, it's one thing to, be going with this person, but to be a wife, you got to make sure that the good doctor's going to be able to stand up to his mother if you guys get married. And don't forget about you, right? Because Peggy's like, she don't like me. I'm not the right color. I'm doing too much. And she's like, okay, no, no, no. You're great. You're wonderful. You just make sure that he is man enough to stand up to his mama. And I'm like, very good, Peggy's mama, because, I just don't want Peggy to get wrapped up in all of this and to get her heart broken, and just forget about her in this whole thing and what really makes her happy. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit of Mama's Boy vibes from the Good Doctor this episode. And I do still like them and I like them together, but I just don't want Peggy's heart to get broken. So, my fingers are crossed for this relationship. One thing I will say, their bond, I think, Peggy and the Good Doctor, is a whole lot more. I feel a connection more with them than I do with Larry and Gladys. I don't know. It's just, but we'll get there with Larry and Gladys. But I don't know. It just seems like I know that if he was to ask her to marry him today, she would definitely say yes. So I hope it happens, but I hope it's smooth. But of course, it's not going to be smooth. I can already see it. Let's see. All right, now speaking of Larry, you guys remember last episode, George had Larry go out to Morenci to try to close this deal on the land and the mines and all of that that's going on out west. So anyway, remember that Larry asked for the paperwork for the land and the mines, which George did provide to him. So we didn't see it last episode, but apparently Larry did make some calls, and he had, and I don't remember the name of what the title was called. So I'm just going to call it like a surveyor, right? So he gets there and he's met by this surveyor. And so the surveyor is like, I guess, the land specialist. He tells him that, that the mines actually have copper, which is worth a lot of money. So he also tells him, hey, look, man, you got to make this deal, make it quick, make it lucrative, because although we're early in the digging, there's probably a whole lot more where that came from. So if this ends up working out, he may be the one that's going to save the business, because back in New York, we see that JP Morgan has summoned all of the railroad tycoons to his estate. He said, look, y'all, the horses, y'all go away. Ain't nobody leaving until this is done. All right. And what it is the reason why he has them there is so that they need to figure out who's going to have the controlling share. Somebody has to have the 51%, so that they can continue on making money and go and doing the business. Right now, they're kind of at a standstill because nobody wants to give up their share. So anyway, we see that Clay, who y'all remember was George's partner or assistant or whoever it was, he got fired last episode. So now he has crossed over the lines and he is now with the enemy. I believe that guy's name is Wrigley, but I could have his name wrong. But anyway, George can't stand him. He despises him. And he seems like he's a little cheap. He was talking about how he fired somebody for $3 and hired somebody else for $2 or something. I mean, he seems like he's a little bit of a cheapskate. But anyway, Clay is going to tell all the dirty little secrets. He says, "Listen, I know where all the bodies are buried. Don't you worry about it," because Wrigley ended up not getting it. Actually, Merrick, which you guys remember, he came to dinner last episode, and him and Bertha almost got it on, like on the or on the dining room table. But we remember he said that it wasn't really his; it was his brother that owns the shares and things of that nature. So both of them show up, and George was able to talk to Merrick's brother, and he did agree. But I guess when they got back to New York with all the secrets and stuff coming out, now his stock has started to plummet. So of course George is just like, "Look, I can't believe this. This is all Clay's fault. I should have killed him when I had the chance." And I'm like, "George, are you out here killing people? What do you mean? Are you a killer now, George? What is happening?" I mean, I like George. I've always liked George, and I'm trying to still like him. But I mean, you was gonna unalive Clay. I mean, is this what it comes down to out here? I don't know. I guess so. He is ruthless. He can be ruthless. So I guess if it had to come to that, it had to come to that. I mean, I was surprised to hear him say that, but George is really, really stressed out. So hopefully Larry will come through. And I mean, I don't know. Larry may come through, or Larry may say, "Hey, this is my stuff. You told me to make the deal, but I went and had some people really start digging, and here's what I got." I mean, I don't see him turning his back on his daddy's business. But you never know. And when Larry gets back and he hears the news about what Marion is getting ready to throw on him, who knows what kind of mind state Larry's going to be in when he gets back. But we're going to talk about that next. Let's talk about Marion and what's going on in the Van Ryan Forte household. Okay, let's talk about Ada and Madame Dashkova. Let me tell y'all something. I was so surprised and upset to see that Ada went back to see Madame Dashkova. I thought last episode was the closure that she needed. I felt so good last week when I saw that. She had heard from him supposedly, and that she got the answers that she needed. And she came back to the house and she was like, "I'm going to start wearing colors." And it just seemed like she was kind of turning a new leaf, and working through her grief and her healing. But nope, she went back over there to see her again, and that's all it took. So she goes over there, and Madame Dashkova's running game, of course. "Did you feel the breeze when you walked in?" I'm like, oh God. So anyway, come to find out, when Luke passed away, there was a misprint in his I guess in the write-up for his passing, where they had him as like Luca Forte or something, which made everybody feel like he was Italian, but really he never spoke Italian. He didn't know anything about Italy, or speaking Italian. And because Lady Dashkova or Madame Dashkova is like, "Yeah, I'm hearing that he's saying this and saying that." And he's like, "Oh," and Ada's like, "Really? He's saying all that in Italian?" Because he never learned Italian. That's when she realizes that Dashkova is a fraud and a fake. So, I mean, just how hurt she was. She was like, "I'm a old fool," but she did end up telling her off and telling her she should be ashamed of herself. I felt so bad for Ada. Anyway, she goes home and she just busts out in tears, and Agnes was there to comfort her. I love the scenes when the sisters are there, and it's not so bickery back and forth. "I've got the money, you don't have the money, nah, 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 nah," all that stuff, where Agnes is just always in her feelings about the fact that she's not, running things anymore, through her eyes. But anyway, she was able to comfort her sister and say, "Listen, I know you miss him, but he's always there. He's in your heart." And I thought that was a touching scene. But man, just to see her go back to Lady Dashkova, I was really, really shocked. I didn't think we were going to see her again. But, I'm glad that it happened. Now we can just forget about that and let the true healing and the true grieving take place. So come on, Ada, you can do it. Just, start implementing some colors into your wardrobe, and just pray, and just, it's going to be hard, and it's not going to be one day or two, and it's going to probably, I don't know. I never lost my husband, so I don't know how it feels, but I did lose my mom And I know that but anyway, so I just hope that she can get through that and stop, just with the foolishness. I do have a question though. I want to know if Miss Bauer knew that Lady Dashkova was a fraud, because y'all remember in the earlier seasons, Mrs. Bauer was caught stealing. And people like that, and I love Mrs. Bauer. I think she's a sweet lady, but you're hanging out with Lady Dashkova. Where did you find her? What's going on here? I want to say that she didn't have anything to do with it, and I'm hoping that she didn't. So I don't know, Miss Bauer. Gee whiz, I really just wish that you had never introduced her to Lady Dashkova. But Ada, I just pray that you can just start the healing and the grieving process. Okay, y'all, let's talk about Marion. Poor Marion. So Oscar has a conversation with Marion, and Oscar tells Marion that Larry ran into Maud Beaton. And so he also says, listen, I'm going to go down to try to talk to her to find out what's going on with her and to find out what happened with the money. So now Marion is on this quest to find out where it was that Larry actually saw Miss Beaton. So she's asking John, poor little John, Jack John, he's just trying to carry a tray down to the sisters. He don't want no problems, no issues. And she's like, Tommy, where were you guys at? And John is like, listen, I'm not a snitch. I'm not snitching on my business partner. I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have to ask him, but I need to take this tea to the ladies. Okay. So please keep me out of it. And so Oscar actually tells her where it was. Now, remember when they, at the last episode, after they got engaged, he told her that a friend of his was getting married. And so the bachelor party was going to be at this place called Delmonico's. Now, I guess Delmonico's and the Haymarket are two different places. I was thinking Delmonico's was the Haymarket, but it's not. I guess Delmonico's first and then the Haymarket. But anyway, Marion is not happy at all about this. And so she loses it. She's like, listen, he's at this house of ill repute, aka Secrets Bar and Grill. But anyway, so she doesn't like the fact that he was there, and especially on the night that they got engaged. And so she's just crying and all upset. And so Oscar's trying to like calm her down, like, girl, listen, he was out with friends. I don't think anything happened. And I'm like, yeah, Marion, he said he was going out for a bachelor party with friends. However, though, Marion, he was a little bit too, comfortable in there. It's like, when you walk into Cheers and everyone goes, Norb, it was sort of like a Larry. Like he knew everybody and everybody knew his name. It seemed like, I don't know, but if you're dating somebody, and it just goes to show you that Larry and Marianne really have no business getting married right now, because they don't know anything about each other. I mean, the only time you really see them, they're still in a kiss here, still in a kiss there, but there's really no, I want to really try to get to know you. And so now she's getting to know him, but she didn't already said you was going to marry him. So, talk about putting the cart before the horse. But anyway, she goes ahead and she writes a letter. She's calling off the engagement, takes it over to churches, or takes it over to the Russell's house and gives it to church. So when Larry gets back, he's going to see the letter. And, I don't know. I don't really have any words to say to Marion, because I kind of see where she's coming from with, if this is his, deal, and this is what he does, and he likes to frequent these places, a conversation is going to have to be had. Like, if he's willing to give it all up and just be a married man and walk the straight and narrow, then okay, fine. And it seems to me like Larry is really smitten with Marion, so I think he'd give it up. I don't think it's something where he's, oh, I gotta go to the Haymarket, every weekend. This is just something that I do. Maybe it's something he does now as a single man, but that doesn't mean that it can change. But it does say a lot about him. But I don't know. They just seem to really need to have a conversation. I really don't think that writing that letter and just leaving it at that was the best thing for Marion to do. I felt like something like a conversation face to face. Maybe she could have waited until he got back to have that conversation. But we'll see what happens when he gets back from Morenci. Poor Marion. All right, now Agnes wants to know, and she wants to know right now, how much money did Jack John make off this clock? So, of course, she asks Bannister. Bannister's like, look, keep me out of it. I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't want no smoke. But you know who does and who don't care and who's a big liar? Armstrong. Because Armstrong's like, so you don't know how much he's making. He's still working here and he don't have to work here. And he's making people feel uncomfortable. I'm like, really? No, who has a problem with him working here except for you? But anyway, she tells Agnes, yeah, he made $300,000 off this invention. Agnes, like, the what? Go get Ada right now. So she goes and gets Ada. She tells Ada, and Ada's like, okay, I'll take care of it. So Ada has a conversation with John and tells John, listen, we're very, very proud of you, and I understand that this is your family. Because John's like, listen, this is the only family I ever known. But she's like, listen, it's time for you to, you know, get on your own feet and find your own way. You have plenty of money and you're going to be just fine. So they hug it out. It was so touching, such a touching scene. It turns to come to find out, he actually ended up giving everybody back what they invested in him from the beginning, plus more. So everybody got that plus more. So that was very, very nice of him. Even Armstrong, who didn't even invest in it, he even gave her a little something. But they have a touching scene down with the staff, and they're hugging and everything. And then he goes ahead and they're like, keep in touch. And then he asked Bridget something, if he could talk to her, and he said something to Bridget, and I thought that he was going to ask her out, but it didn't happen, and he went on ahead and he left. And I'm like, oh, John, I really hope that they don't write him off. I hope, because I just think I read something about them getting picked up for season 4. So I'm so happy about that. But anyway, he is such a great character in the show. Like, and he's already doing like another invention. He's trying to figure out how to make a blender, how to mix food together. So I want to like see what happens there. Does that really happen? Does that come into play? But it was so sad to see, but he did get his money and he's out of the house. He is no longer a footman. I'm excited to see. I would actually love to just see a show with just him and seeing how he's going to navigate this world, with this newfound money. I think it's interesting. But good for John. I'm so, so happy for him. And the staff is happy. Agnes, go sit down somewhere, girl. She was doing way too much this episode. And lastly, let's talk about Oscar. So Oscar's gonna go try to hunt down Maud Beaton down at Secrets and try to figure out what happened and where is his money. So he goes in there and he meets her and she's like, "Hi, my name is Dottie Bit." And I'm like, "Come on now, Maud. Like, you know that he knows who you are. Like, let's cut that." So anyway, that's exactly kind of what Oscar said. Like, come on, let's not do that. Anyway, they end up meeting and he's like, "Where is my money? I want my money back." And he's like, "Listen, I don't have the money. You were taken. I was taken. Some guy, that's what they did. It was all a big scam. They scam out on people that look like you, that were greedy, and you were just one of the victims, right? But don't worry about me. I'm okay. I got to be here. They give me a room. They give me a place to eat, but I got to work off my tab here." And so he's like, "Well, do you understand what you've done to me? That I got to live in my mama's house and hear her mouth every single day about how I have disappointed her and lost her fortune." And she's like, "Well, do you understand that I got to sit here and lay with people that are overweight and have bad breath?" Like, yeah, but listen, lady, that was your choice. You decided to get involved with that. But Oscar did not ask to be con. So let's not do that. Anyway, long story short, he ends up giving her a ticket because she does have a sister that lives in Sandusky. He got her a train ticket and got her up out of there, which I thought was really nice of him, but kind of like, why? I mean, you lost all your mother's money. And he had a little statue in his hand. I thought he was getting ready to do something to her. And so, but he didn't. And so he's talking to his friend John Adams about it and let him know what he did. And he was like, "All right, well, don't worry about that. That's over. Listen, you have a meeting next week." And he's trying to get him, back on his feet with taking meetings and things of that nature. So they're walking and they're just saying their goodbyes. And he's like, "Listen, you're my savior. Thank you so much for all, for what you're doing, for me." It kind of seemed like it was a little bit of finality to it. So I was just kind of like, where is this going? What's happening? And sure enough, as soon as he walked away, boom, he gets hit by a carriage. And I believe that was the end of John Adams. And I was like, wow, really? That is crazy. So you guys, let me know what you all thought. That was the end of the episode. Let me know your thoughts on the episode. I thought it was a great, great episode. Y'all tell me what you think about the good Dr. Kirkland and his mama. Also, what do you think Larry's going to say when he gets back from Morenci? And is George going to lose his fortune? And also, we know that George now moved out of the house, honey. He's staying at the same place where Aurora's husband was staying. So we'll see what happens when Bertha gets back next week. All right, y'all. I hope you guys meet me next week so we can talk about it. Until then, bye.